Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Monday, February 28th, last day of the month. Monday, I sent out my new issue of MMT Trader. If you want to get a copy of that, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial, or if you're looking for an individual subscription, send me an email at mnorman@pitbulleconomics.com. We'll see if we can work something out for you. So mixed market today, but you have to understand we came into the market today with a lot of anxiety over the weekend, a barrage of new sanctions hitting Russia from everywhere, Europe, United States, sanctions on the Russian central bank. I read comments or reports about how there's going to be another Lehman moment, a meltdown, going to need massive liquidity injection. You saw the ruble. At one point, I saw it quoted at 180. I think it was like 94 by the end of the day. So it was down, but nowhere near how much it was down. And I want to talk about these sanctions because for me, I don't know, it just seems like, has the West really thought this through? I mean, there's no question about the fact that the sanctions are going to have a negative impact on the Russian economy. I know people in Russia. My fiance is Russian, her family's over there, her sister's over there. I mean, they're really scared and they're already hurting and they're locked in. I mean, no flights to anywhere in Europe. They can't really get out, and it's a terrible situation. It's terrible for everybody. It's terrible for the Ukrainians. And war is terrible, and I'm anti-war. One thing that happened today, which popped the market late in the day, Biden came out and made a statement saying that Americans should not be worried about a nuclear war with Russia. And you really have to, me personally, I mean, think about that for a second. That we're actually having a serious conversation or having to be told by our president not to worry about a nuclear war. I mean, it is almost surreal. It's crazy. I'm happy he said it. It needed to be said, but there's a part of me that's also still worried because Biden is surrounded by neocons. These people, there isn't a war they don't love. Biden himself, I believe, is a neocon. Recently, a couple of years ago, when Trump was in office, what was it, like 2018, the United States updated its nuclear posture review. That is a plan in place for the use of nuclear weapons that I guess it gets reviewed every certain number of years. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe in that document was a discussion about a winnable nuclear war. And when these guys start talking like that, I mean, that's a really scary thing. So I'm happy Biden came out and said that. But still, we're in a surreal time. I mean, literally, this thing is hanging there as potentially something in the background. It's a horrible thought. But I want to take this time to talk about the sanctions. Now, we know clearly that the sanctions are going to have an impact on the Russian economy. We saw the impact on the ruble. Russia has zero US dollar reserves. So, I mean, whatever we do here, they have zero official dollar reserves. That doesn't mean like there might be private Russian citizens who hold dollars and they're going to be screwed. And maybe some of these oligarchs, they have lots of dollars, they might be screwed. But listen, I couldn't, it couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of guys as far as I'm concerned, and women, if there are some. So I don't care about that. But in terms of official reserves, they hold $0. They hold something like 250 billion in euros. So that they're going to take a hit probably on that. The rest is in gold. The rest is in Chinese yuan. And they're probably going to replace their foreign currency reserves with yuan as they export oil to China. So they'll be holding more yuan. And I heard today that they're buying more gold. But here's the thing, folks, and again, I started this off by I don't know how much the United States and Europe has thought this through, because to me, it seems almost unavoidable that we're going to feel some of the consequences of these sanctions too. I mean, Russia is a major major energy exporter. It's the world's largest exporter of wheat. Let me just give you some numbers. Russia supplies 10% of the world's crude oil. 10%. That's not a small number. Especially given the fact that right now OPEC is sticking to its original plan of just very small monthly increases. So they're not going to replace whatever lost supply we're going to feel from the sanctions on Russia. All right, so I mean, who knows? I don't know if Americans who are really, really gung-ho right now on giving Russia the hardest punishment possible, I don't know if they're going to be that happy if we end up paying $10 a gallon for gasoline. I mean, I do not know how much thought went into these sanctions beyond, hey, we got to punish Russia. I mean, I'm talking about the boomerang effect that might come back on us. Russia also supplies 40% of Europe's natural gas. I mean, did the Germans think about that? How is that going to be replaced? There's no way you're going to replace 40% supply of natural gas. Russia is also, I think I just mentioned, the world's largest wheat exporter. Wheat. There's not every country in the world has wheat as part of its food stock. All right, we grow wheat here, but Russia is a net exporter, the world's largest exporter of wheat. Wheat prices are going to go up. You already saw this. You're seeing it now. Wheat prices are, today they were up strongly. I think something like 62 or 65 cents. I saw it at one time, 75 cents. I mean, commodity prices are probably going to rise. Now, the thing is, I'm looking at energy. I'm looking at oil. The potential here, how can it boomerang? It could boomerang as a global recession. The Fed's going to raise interest rates next month, starting March 16th. They're going to start their interest rate hike campaign. They're planning on 6 rate hikes this year. If you have energy prices rising, I mean, I don't know how much they thought this through. To me, it seems hard to fathom the idea that these sanctions, and these are unprecedented. We never saw sanctions like this before, not only like this in terms of, the quality of the sanctions, but, how broad from where they're hitting, from Europe, from the United States, basically from all over. So, for me, I think there's going to be some blowback, and I'm going to keep my eye on oil prices because I think that's going to basically be like the canary in the coal mine. That's going to let us know. Now, a lot of people probably expected oil to spike today, and that was another thing. Like, I started off this conversation by saying, we didn't have this Lehman moment. But that doesn't mean that the effect won't be more like a slow burn, like gradually over time. You start to feel the constriction in supplies of crude, of wheat, of other commodities, aluminum. Russia's the second largest exporter of aluminum, but it's really oil because energy is primary to the functioning of the global economy. And again, you can't, if OPEC doesn't step in, which it's so far it says it's not going to step in, and I guess that's a tacit nod in favor of the Russians because the Russians are part of that OPEC plus group. I mean, the fact that OPEC said today, no, we're sticking with our original output agreement of increase by 400,000 barrels a day. I don't know. I think we could see a slow burn where oil just keeps creeping up until it doesn't creep up anymore and it starts to go panic mode up. But we'll see. But the elements are in place, at least potentially, I think, that could lead to a global recession. And I don't think that was in the calculus of all this stuff. I think everything that was done was highly emotional. It was done because there was a feeling like we had to do something. We can't do something militarily, so we have to do something. Russia's economy is small as a percentage of the global economy, so that's not really an issue. But Russia's supplies of energy to the world, that's not that small, okay? And right now, we're basically running in balance. I don't know, was it like 100 or 110 million barrels a day demand for crude, something like that. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to shift the balance into, shortage, and then prices are just going to keep going up. And that's not good. So, I think got to be a little bit careful here. You got to be a little bit careful. I don't think the sanctions were fully considered in terms of what the blowback effect could be. Maybe there won't be any. Maybe there won't be any. But oil started out weak today. It was down and it ended up about 4 or 5% higher. And watch it over the next few days. Watch how it trades. Watch how it trades. I think we're going to get some kind of a creep, slow burn higher until, we really start to feel the pinch. Could be wrong. But again, I just don't see how these sanctions are not going to have some effect on the global economy. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Again, let me just mention one other thing before I go. A lot of talk about, and I did already break down Russian foreign currency reserves. Foreign currency reserves are a product of exports. Country exports, it gets paid in a foreign currency, usually that foreign currency usually ends up at the central bank because the vendor of the exporter usually swaps that foreign currency for a local currency because that's what they use to run their business. So the foreign currency ends up at the central bank. That is a product of exports. And foreign currency reserves, they're sometimes used to pay for imports. And that's the reverse situation. You get a Russian firm, let's say they want to buy, French cheese. They got to pay in euro, right? So they'll convert at their bank the ruble to euro, and then the bank, that eventually comes from, then the bank gets the euro credit from the central bank, and then that gets paid to the French cheese maker. So it's used for imports. Russia was, if you go back to the days of the Soviet Union, Russia was a closed system, okay? They didn't trade with anybody. It was a closed system. And I mean, say what you want. They built up, the second biggest military in the world, the biggest nuclear power in the world. It was a closed system. Now, the people didn't live with all the consumer goods like we have in the West. But I've seen a lot of discussion online and a lot of commentary online about how this is going to, it's going to so impact them because it's freezing their reserves. I mean, it's nice to have, United States, take for example, United States basically has zero foreign currency reserve. The Fed has 20 billion in foreign currency denominated assets against a balance sheet of 9 trillion. So I mean, it's like 0.00 nothing. It's irrelevant. So I don't think this whole thing, they're freezing their reserves, they're going to be up Schitt's Creek. Really, I mean, I don't know how they're going to manage it, but it's definitely manageable. Again, the Soviet Union was a closed system. They fought World War II. They defeated the Nazis. By the way, they built 110,000 tanks. They built 157,000 airplanes. They fed and clothed an army of 11.4 million people, men, women. It was a closed system. The Soviet Union had no foreign currency reserves. So, I don't know, if you read stuff like that and you hear stuff like that, I would really discount it. Because it's being like pumped up as something really, really important. And yeah, it's going to affect the lifestyle. No question it's going to affect the lifestyle of average Russians because they've had a growing middle class and they're getting a taste of the stuff that we in the West have had for a long time, and now they're not going to have that. So it's going to be tough. But I don't know, when I hear this whole thing about, oh my God, they're freezing the foreign reserves, I mean, it's silly. It's just silly. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. See you tomorrow. Bye.